Wonderful evening. Thank you for coming. I am Alicia Godoy Giro. I am president of NACAE, the National Association of Cuban American Educators. It's a nonprofit organization, and we love being part of it. My executive committee is Eduardo Sayas Bazán, treasurer, Jorge Giro Puyans, vice treasurer, Federico Justiniani, ex officio, Josie Valdez Hurtado, secretary, Lourdes Sayas Bazán, vice secretary, y Daniel Pedreira, PhD professor. Well, my executive committee. Okay, the main thing that we do a yearly scholarship for students who study Spanish and are going to continue their studies at the university. That's our best thing we do. And with your participation, we can provide this scholarship every year for students to study Spanish at the university. Also, we have monthly events where we constantly maintain the Cuban culture alive. They're always free. And we recognize every year the professor of the year or educator of the year to someone that has excelled in education. So we have three things that we do, and we need all of you to belong to NACAE. And we have these papers here to sign up for it. Okay, today we have here with us, and in a minute, the presentation of Waiting for Snow in Havana. That's going to be a wonderful musical when it gets to go to Broadway. The writer, Carlos Eire, the producer, María Elena de la Noval, the composer and co-lyrist, Benjamin Vélez, co-lyrist and poet laureate, Richard Blanco. Our moderator tonight is Nicole Quintana. Nicole is director of the musical theater department at Miami Art Studio Magnet High School. She's a teacher, an actor, an advocate with 25 years in the theater community and public schools in Miami-Dade. We're lucky to have Nicole as our moderator for tonight's presentation. Please welcome Nicole Quintana.
Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for this special conversation about the journey behind this exciting new musical based on the memoirs of Carlos Eire. Before we begin tonight, I would like to tell you a synopsis that brings together both the memoirs and gives you the synopsis of this brand new musical. And Waiting for Snow in Havana and Learning to Die in Miami. Yeah. This musical takes place in Havana, Cuba, Miami, and Chicago between 1958 and the 1960s. The musical begins at the Chicago airport as Carlos anxiously waits his mother's flight. After years of trying to obtain a visa in Cuba, his mother will finally join him and his brother Tony in Chicago. Carlos's mother, beautiful Maria Azucena, survived polio as a child and now walks with a limp. Maria Azucena taught Carlos that nothing is impossible with God's help. When Carlos wished for snow on Christmas, she told him, "Pray hard, be good, and one day it might snow in Havana." He remembers the last time he saw her at 11 years old, when she put him and Tony on a flight of unaccompanied children, escaping Castro's Cuba. This underground exodus is what we now know of as Operation Pedro Pan. Waiting, Carlos asks himself, what do you say to your mother when you haven't seen her in years? I never really told her the truth of what Tony and I went through. He remembers his privileged Cuban childhood in a home filled with priceless art, collected by an eccentric father, Judge Antonio Nieto, who not only believed in past lives, but that he himself was Louis XVI reincarnated. As he continues to wait at the airport, Carlos looks back on the American foster homes he endured, the bullies, the prejudice, the poverty, working 12-hour shifts while still in high school. Was that better than Cuba? Carlos recalls the Cuban courtroom where his father presided as a judge. He reminisces about his smart and cool cousin Armando and his sweetheart Miranda. He relives the terror and the chaos of the Cuban Revolution. As a teen in Miami, Carlos tried to become an all-American boy, even changing his name to Chuck. Will his mother recognize him when she gets off the plane? Should he confess all the hardships he's hidden from her? The flight arrives, but something has gone wrong. Heartbroken, Carlos returns home, his hopes shattered. Yet, in the quiet aftermath, something extraordinary unfolds. An unexpected moment of grace that affirms his faith and brings new meaning to his long journey home. That was the synopsis for the musical, Waiting for Snow in Havana. And now, I would like to present Maria Elena de la Noval, our producer.
Wow, look at this audience. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I know you've got first day of school, traffic, all those things, everybody rushing, but I am so grateful about being here tonight because, you know, it's been many years that I've been working on this, and it's a night of gratitude for me because I didn't get here alone. You know, there's a lot of people that have supported me and have been very faithful in the work that I'm doing in this piece. So, but I want to thank a few people tonight. It's NACAE for letting me propose this idea to have this event and then jumping on it saying yes. Thank you. Thank you, NACAE. And I want to thank the Miami-Dade College and Quebec Center for their generosity in giving us this beautiful venue for tonight, and all the people behind the scenes that have been working for a few weeks on this, or maybe a month. Thank you also. I have to also say that I wouldn't be here without the support and the love of my family. I mean, they have seen me in my ups and downs, and they've put up with me, and they have still believed in me and this project. So thank you to those of you that are here tonight. Thank you. I love you. I'm curious to know how many people here have read Waiting for Snow in Havana? Well, that's pretty good. So tonight you're going to get more story about it if you have never read the book. And some of you might have bought the book outside that was already signed by Carlos. And so I want to tell you a little bit of how I started this. In 2010, I was sitting at a dinner with a few friends, and one of the friends said, I'm going to be in a documentary about Operation Pedro Pan. And I was like, what? What is that? I didn't know. And here I am, a Cuban, and I didn't know what that was. So as she started to explain it to me, I thought, immediately I started thinking, oh my God, this is a musical. I can see the little boy, the kids carrying their suitcases in a musical number. I just kept seeing all of these things, and I said, I'm going to do something about this. And that's how I found out, because I started doing all the research on Pedro Pan, and I also started to read the memoirs. And when I got to Carlos Eire's 2 memoirs, I said, this is the story. I mean, it is so visually beautiful. It is magical. It has all this musical sound in it, because I was imagining like different moments that were epic and different moments that were dramatic, different moments that were funny. And so it's just all of the elements that you would find in a musical. And we could use different genres of music, which you will hear tonight. So that's how I got to know Waiting for Snow in Havana, and how I got to know the Pedro Pan story, which I'm really very touched. And I want to say, please, if you're a Pedro Pan, stand up right now, because I really want to give you an applause. Pedro Pans. Yes. 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 These are very brave people, courageous, but your parents were also the ones who had to make the toughest decision. And this musical is a tribute to you and your parents and our history of Cuba. So let's get on with the show. I want to introduce to you all of our team members, which you can see up there. And our first guest, panel member, he's a professor of history and religious studies at Yale University. He's the author of many award-winning books, but in 2003, he won the National Book Award for Waiting for Snow in Havana. His poignant and enthralling memoir about this story is what tugs at my heart, and he's the reason why we're all here tonight. Please welcome Carlos Eire. So every musical begins with a script, what we call the book of a musical. It's not the book of the author, but the book of the story of the musical. Our book writer couldn't be here tonight, but I want to say a little bit about her, because when we met with her and we had looked at all her work, she's brilliant, and you're going to know that soon. She's clever, and she actually calls herself a research geek for stories that are historical. And she loved this piece. And I want to say something that she said to us. As the mother of an 11-year-old boy, I relish the opportunity to honor the families who took part in the Operation Pedro Pan Exodus. There's so much opportunity here for beauty, laughter, pain, and transcendence. Yes? So that's Sarah Gancher. You can read about her more in your programs. So the next guest is a Miami native. He's the recipient of the Stephen Schwartz Award, which is a big deal, Jonathan Larson Grant, and many other awards. You're going to have to Google him. So he's written original music, many musicals that he's written, and one of his most known is Kiss My Aztec. That's a collaboration with John Leguizamo. And he just recently had his first Broadway show called Real Women Have Curves. Yes. But he was also nominated on his first musical for a Tony Award as Best Musical Score. So this is the guy who's made me cry. He made me laugh, too, and dance when I'm ironing my clothes. Believe me, you're going to hear that music. Please welcome the composer and lyricist, Benjamin Velez. So our next guest is very familiar to the Miami community. He was raised in Miami. He was the presidential inaugural poet for Barack Obama. He's award-winning author of 2 memoirs, 4 poetry collections. And in 2022, he became Miami-Dade County's first ever poet laureate. Yes. In 2023, he was the recipient of the National Humanities Medal. And though he had never written lyrics before, I was able to, and he was a little hesitant about it, by the way, I was able to convince him, and I am so happy that he said yes. Please welcome my Cuban brother, Richard Blanco. So, we're going to go right into it? Okay.
We're going to jump right in here, everyone. Are you ready to learn about this beautiful new musical? Yes. Let's give it up for María Elena de la Noval. So we're going to dive right in to the heart of how this incredible collaboration with all of these wonderful team members came to pass. So first of all, we're going to start talking about the origin story and some of the inspiration that went into creating this musical. So we're going to start with María Elena. So you've been an advertising producer for over 35 years. What inspired you to want to produce a musical after a successful career in advertising?
I've been really a performer since I was 8 years old, and I loved the stage. I loved musicals since I was a kid. I watched all the films that were musicals, and when I was in school, I basically was in every possible show. I went to the University of Miami as a theater major until my father said, María Elena, you have had 1 year of theater. What are you going to do when you get out of school? And I didn't know what to say. So I switched to communications. And the rest is history. I worked at the networks, ABC, NBC in New York. And then I eventually went to Los Angeles. And while in Los Angeles, I got a job as a producer for an ad agency, something I never really planned. Cut to 35 years later, I decided that it was time for me to go back to something I really loved, that I could be inspired and I could feel that passion for something that was really my vision. So when I came across the Pedro Pan story and the books, I said, this was the way to get back in, and I am so happy I've done it.
So, on the receiving side, Carlos, what was your reaction when María Elena came and said, I want to take your memoirs and create a musical?
I was astonished. There's no other word. Astonished is actually a poor word for the reaction, the initial reaction I had. But very, very glad to say, yes, please, go ahead, try, because when I wrote the book, I had no idea who would be reading it. And the readers I feared the most were my fellow Cubans. But then the reaction to the book was so warm, overwhelmingly warm. I thought, why not expose this story to a much greater number of people, because musicals attract people.
Absolutely. And so began this happy marriage. So now, Benjamin, I would like to ask you, first of all, congratulations on receiving a Tony Award nomination for Best Musical Score as co-composer and co-lyricist for Real Women Have Curves, which was your first Broadway show. That's amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
What factors helped you decide to approach creating a musical world for this show?
Many. Maria Elena was very good at convincing me this was the right project for me, because, you never know it when you first encounter new material. What's my way in? Why is this something that I should take on? But immediately the world of Carlos's memoir is just, it feels so much larger than life, and it felt like musically I could have all kinds of different styles to play with. We heard a little bit about his father, the judge, believed he was the reincarnated version of Louis XVI, and pre-revolution Cuba had this old kind of glamour of old Spain to it. So like the musical flavors I could play with just felt very exciting, and I think that was my way in.
Yes. And speaking of musical flavors, we're going to get into our very first excerpt of a song. So this song is called Versailles, and if you could just give us a little context before we jump into this song.
Yes. Do you want to say a little first?
Well, this is a very fun song to write, and part of it is like what music, well, the lyrics and the music go together, but I don't know how we landed on a danzón, right? Which was like, so the music Versailles, and we got to say Versailles is the context because the judge, Carlos' father, one of his reincarnations was Louis XVI. So I don't know how creativity happens.
I think we found that the genre danzón was originally came from French court
so
music.
Like, okay, here we go.
So it felt appropriate, and also I just want to say before we play any songs, because Maria Elena really wanted me to make sure everyone knows that these are excerpts from demos where it's mostly me singing and the instruments are fake. So this is not gonna. This is just use your imagination to imagine what a real orchestra and real actors would sound like. A few of the songs have some other singers, but most of them is going to be 100 versions of me. So
yeah, and I think a further context is that this is perhaps a little bit of a world that is not the revolutionary. I mean, it's how could I say? It is the world of the European world where it wasn't. They were just thinking about what's going on in Cuba. They're just questioning things. They're not necessarily understanding exactly what's going on, but something is going on at this moment that they're sensing. So it's not, it's sort of the nuances of what happened in Cuba, right?
Well, it's kind of like the end of this era where this class of people are feeling like they're the aristocracy, right, and they're not fully grasping that it's about to end.
It's just a really small touch, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to add something.
Sure.
This song is happening during a party celebration for the judge. So that's why it has all this Versailles theme to it. They're celebrating his 25 years of being a judge in Havana. So it's a party, there's waiters, people are talking about what's happening in the country, and that's
yeah, and with this song and all the others, we had to cut them down for this event, so
yeah,
they won't have satisfying musical arcs fully through, but just keep in mind that it's just part of the song.
Okay. Why don't we listen to our excerpt of Versailles?
Versailles, Versailles, will elegance ever die? Cuba, our island paradise, Versailles. Did you hear about the rebels? They killed a man by throwing rocks. I heard they're only throwing pebbles. Try the salmon canapes with the gravlax. I heard they may be getting closer. They could take Havana by force. I'd worry more about your ulcer. This endive is divine. More champagne? Yes, of course. Versailles, Versailles, the dream of a time gone by. Cuba, our island paradise, Versailles. Have you seen the new sugar prices have been falling? Yes, I heard they're all and it could lead to rebellion. Many farmers are unhappy, and Guajiros even it's time for us to make it better. Another oyster Rockefeller? Versailles, summer night. Cuba, our island paradise.
That was your voice.
Unfortunately.
That's beautiful. I think he did a wonderful job with
Wait,
that.
some of these, I think we had failed to mention, these are demos, right?
Yeah.
These are not the final, these are not, yeah.
Yeah, and for obviously I can't sing like a woman, so I had to transpose my voice up. So sometimes it might sound munchkin-y, and you know.
But some of my favorites are when he sings it.
And so we're going to be listening to a second song that also surrounds the judge's character. So give us a little context before we got into the joys of law and order.
Yeah, so that one was the judge holding court in a different way, but now we're going to see the judge in his element as a judge. And we were talking earlier. I don't know if you want to tell us why that was such a formative moment when you first saw your dad.
Yeah, well, you know, most children tend to think of their parents as buffoons, no matter what they do in life. So that was the first day he took me to court with him, and I sat up there on the bench, right, and watched him passing sentence on people. And having walked past the jail cell where all of the people who were about to be tried were being kept, I had never been so frightened in my life. And then I see my father turn into this completely different man. Stayed with me forever, still stays with me. Connecting the dots between his you know, if you think that this is a fiction, that he thought he had been Louis XVI, it is not a fiction. It is not. He really believed that. So connecting the dots, the man on trial in Paris is now trying other people. So,
and I guess we wanted to compare these two songs because this is now more of a traditional Cuban sound. Like this song was a specific reference to, there's a song Guajiro de Cunagua by Abelardo Barroso. That was an inspiration for this one. So we wanted to really lean into this traditional Cuban pre-revolution sound for a lot of the songs, and so that's what you'll hear in this one.
Okay, great. Let's jump right into the joys of law and order.
Can I get you Coca-Cola, or maybe Royal Crown, or a milkshake, not that cake, gentlemen sit down, a juicy fruit, comic book, look, we have tons, anything at all for the judge's sons. I now wonder, did my father pay for these perks, or was it the poor clerks, vying to get in the king's good graces? Court in session. The joys of law and order, order and law. The joys of law and order, order and law. Fair is the law and the law is fair. You can't complain, but the law don't care. Breaking the law leads to arrest. I am the judge and the judge knows best. The joys of law and order, order and law. The joys of law and order, order and law. That's right, without the law, the thieves would win. Pandemonium would begin. Crime would reign and heads would spin. Now who wants that? Not me. Listen, boys, and you will learn that luck can change and tides may turn, but order is my one and only concern. Next, the joys of law and order, order and law. Judge, listen to me.
Okay, that's all we'll hear about one.
Okay. So we've heard how Carlos felt when Maria Elena approached him and how you became part of this. Richard, why don't you share with us what your initial thoughts were for being part of this unknown musical?
Well, I mean, it was a great surprise out of the blue. And as Mariana mentioned, I was hesitant. I had written some lyrics with some really just one-off projects and whatnot. By this time, luckily, I had worked on a play, so I had a little more sense of the dramatic arts. But I was like, why me? And but slowly, not only because Maria Elena is so wonderful about explaining her vision and what this project's about, not only because this is obviously a project that I can totally feel from the soul, right? Just obvious connections. But then I started thinking about really the connections between poetry and music that I've always professed, right? And so I thought this is a great journey to think about how poetry and music, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more later, but that poetry's DNA is in music. It began as oral tradition, and we've only been reading poetry on the page for relatively a short time, right? And so I thought, this is great. And then there's something I've never told Maria Elena, but for some reason, I wake up with a song in my head every morning, so I must dream with music. And I thought about that. I was like, maybe there's something that a higher force is trying to tell me. But anyways, I got to say, end of the day, it's been a beautiful journey. It's been amazing what I've learned, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But absolutely, I was in. And actually, also when I got to speak to Ben, we're like bros.
That's so wonderful when good chemistry happens in a team, you know.
Yeah.
And now we're going to talk about a little bit about how the team was built and what you were looking for, Maria Elena. So what was important to you when looking to select one of the creative team members?
So, I mean, like every work, when you hire someone, you have to look at their work and their experience, the quality of their work. And I also was trying to bring together Latinos, because this is a story that's very cultural, and there's a lot of nuances that we understand from each other, and I also understand a little more about the immigrant story. I think you had to have that closeness to it. Sarah's an exception because Sarah understands that immigrant story, being Jewish. But they also had to have this kind of chemistry. If they didn't blend well, we're going to be spending many years together. We already have. But to spend a lot of time together, that has to happen, that chemistry, that respect for each other, and, and have fun. That's definitely important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're having fun, then you're not working a day in your life, right?
I wish that was true.
Debbie Downer.
Richard, being a poet, you usually work alone. So how did you adapt to working in a creative group this way and creating lyrics, which are a little bit different than creating your poetry?
Yeah, I should say I had a little bit of a warm-up because I co-wrote a play with Vanessa Garcia, and so I got the sense of not only co-writing something with someone, but also the world of play, which is also very collaborative because it's not, your first draft is a blueprint, and then the actors come in, and we'll talk about that as well in a musical, but it's the director, it's the artistic director. And so, but what I learned here, it was like, this is like a play on steroids. There's so many more people involved, including directors. Your choreography, producers, obviously composers. So it was a little, somewhat of an adaptation, but a welcome one. As an anal retentive first career engineer, it was another step in my evolution of letting go and the beauty of letting go, and just realizing the beauty of just not only just Ben, which is the person I've worked closest with, but the script writer, Elena, when all our ideas come together, and it's such a wonderful thing, because as a writer, you're so solitary for the most part, right? You have your workshop groups and whatnot, and you're kind of collaborating from a distance in the sense that you're writing in the presence of other writers, sort of in your mind, but nothing like this hands-on, and it's so tactile, and it's so visceral, and it's just addictive.
That's a good addiction to have, right? We're going to go into another song. So this one is called Don't Let Go. And so actually, Richard, why don't you give us a little bit of context on this, because this is close to you.
So, like I said, I was terrified, right? and this is the first song we wrote. I was like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do? And I think serendipitously or by destiny, it became the song that was one of the aha moments, and there's another one I'll talk about later. But it really touched, because, okay, so the play is set up where there's Carlos Grande and Carlitos. So there's the older narrator, the Carlos, as in the memoir, and a younger version, very young version of himself in Cuba. And so a lot of my writing is going back into my childhood and into my family context to understand what happened, to understand why I'm a product of that world. And so this song was, I can't hear it without tearing up, right? But it's, in this song you'll hear Carlos talking to Carlitos, and it's that question of what if you could go back in time and tell your younger self something, which is kind of what I've always been doing in my life, right? And so that's a very personal context, but we also have sort of a sort of, in terms of the musical, why we wanted to start, or why Ben wanted to start with that song.
Well, it's kind of, the whole story is about kind of going through the loss of innocence as you get older, and everything that the character ends up going through. And this is a moment when he's trying to recapture that feeling of what it was like before he got sent away and his family fell apart. And so it's kind of, musically it's like a lullaby, and it's got wistfulness, and yeah, I think that's all we need.
Yes. So let's listen to it. This is Don't Let Go.
Wish I could play with the boy I was then, sharing his spirit, his wonder again. Watch a balloon dancing to and fro. Hold your balloon, Chico, don't let go. Wish I could laugh with the boys I knew then, believe that our joy would go on without end, never afraid of how old we'd grow, but innocence flies like balloons you let go. Hold on, don't let them fly away. Hold on, stay a child at least today. Wish I could speak to the boy I was then, beg him to try and hold on till the end. But was there a choice? Will I ever know? Why did we fly like balloons we let go? Hold your balloon, Chico, don't let go.
Wow.
I remember the first time, this was the first song I heard, and I cried, just cried. It was like, oh my God, this is becoming real.
I'm like moved here, and it's just such a beautiful idea about, like, you know, the innocence leaving like a balloon that you let go. And so far, these beautiful songs that you've heard today, my next question, or my next elaboration is going to be, they've worked on this through Zoom for the most part. They have not been sitting in the same room together. So why don't we elaborate a little bit on how that process, making something so beautiful through Zoom, has been for you two?
I mean, I came on board during the pandemic, and we didn't have a choice at first. And we also live in different places. I live in New York, and you're Miami, and I mean, it's amazing what we can do with technology now. But we had a Google Doc where we would basically converse with each other and each keep putting ideas and change the colors every time we would add new ideas, and we created a workflow that way. And I think what was really important is every time we would start a new song, we would have a phone conversation or a Zoom conversation where we talk it through and talk about how it worked in the story and what we wanted it to do for the characters, and then we would each go off and do our own things and come back together. And I think as long as we knew what we were trying to achieve, most of the time we came back with things that worked well.
Yeah, I think when you say Zoom, also we're thinking about like these board meetings or a staff meeting, right? But yeah, it was very dynamic. Like, I remember phone calls when I was in the middle of it, and Benjamin, I just had this idea, and then okay, put in the Google Doc because I'm doing something right now, or I'm on an event, and then I'll get back to. But also, I think in terms of writing itself, to take the quiet time to sort of write our thoughts down was actually helpful in that Google Doc, to sort of give us our own creative space to go away and think about it a little bit, to hear each other, and then come back and then sort of digest what was on the page. And it was, I thought it was wonderful. I mean, I actually don't know, you're more in this biz than I am, obviously, but I don't know if I would meet with my lyricist in person every day.
Well, I think
that's a lot.
The danger with in-person meetings is that you end up talking about other things the whole time.
We're talking about
This is only our third time meeting in person.
In person. So it actually keeps you on a creative focus in a weird, ironically, right? Where you go away and think, I'll go away and think, and then we'll come back on the page, or like you said, have a phone call or whatnot and just hash it out.
Yeah.
And I think, that the days of Burt Bacharach sitting around the piano, I don't know if that exists anymore.
Honestly, it's probably better this way because his most creative time is between midnight and 6 a.m. So yeah. I would wake up to new things in the Google Doc.
And don't get me wrong, because Maria Elena has told us this, there will be a time that we have to be in the room, right? Where we're actually hashing out, and that's later on, and I think that's also important, right?
Absolutely. But such beautiful work already, and through Zoom. Let's move on to maybe some more personal and emotional connections that you guys have for the content, the characters. So Richard, we'll start with you. What have been the similarities and the differences between writing your poems for the page versus writing for lyrics?
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, at first that was my hesitation, right? Like, how do I, this is... But again, I've always professed that music, that poetry and music are, that they come from the same sort of origin. So there were a couple of wonderful things that happened because I don't know how many people would know in the audience, but in contemporary poetry, the idea of end rhyme has washed out. The idea of writing in strict meter, like the iambic pentameter that you all learned in high school, right? That is not really followed strictly in contemporary page poetry. And so I got to use all these tools that I learned that, again, because poetry started in music. And I remember wait, Benjamin knows what iambic trimeter is, or trochaic, whatever.
I don't.
Yes, you did. Yeah. Well, you pretended you did. But even end rhyme, nobody end rhymes, which is just, it's not that. But so anyway, just to get to use all these tools, and then to have them merge together with music in the way that I've always been sort of thinking that poetry is that way, it was just a beautiful phenomenon. I will say also that there's another aspect to it that poetry is also performative. And I take great pride when I take notes. I write notes. To me, a poetry reading is a performance, and that dimension of working into a musical that's also performance suddenly opened another door that was similar, right? On the other hand, it's dissimilar in the way that I have to remember that then there's the page portrait, but I think this has helped me understand one, or say both better, this whole experience.
Like it's elevated the process almost, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And so we're going to listen to another song. This is called A Man Like Me. And do you want to give a little context on that one?
Sure. So Carlitos has an older cousin who's living with the family, in our version called Armando. He's like the cool high school kid. And Carlitos was just got into a fist fight in school, and someone was making fun of his mother in her limp, and he defends his mother's honor and punches the kid. And Armando picks him up from school and is kind of teaching him, let me teach you how to fight like a man. If you're going to defend honor, you better do it right. But also, the song is kind of like I'm not doing a good job explaining it, but it's kind of like this is what the new Cuban man is like.
Yeah, and so we got to remember that, I don't know if it was said in the synopsis, but Armando is Miranda's boyfriend. So there's that context too. But also, it's like that cool cousin that we like always had in our life, like cool older cousin that we want to sort of emulate. And so he's kind of a little bit of a mentor to the kids. And so in this, he's trying to do his best, I think, to understand himself as the new Cuban man and trying to pass that along to the kids. And it's kind of like, I don't know if this is fair, but he's kind of the Cuban Elvis. And this song is like, just the cool guy. But with love and just really loving these kids as well.
And if I may add an extra dimension, the character of Armando, the real man, my cousin, Fernando, spent over 20 years in prison in Cuba. So.
Yeah, I wanted to add that, more to that point, Armando is in the university, and like many of the students back then, they really believed in this new government, this new leader, and democracy, freedom, all of these things that the young people believed at that time. So that's why, and also the young kids, Carlitos and his brother Tony, would really look up to him. He was like cool, and so
it was
admired him.
a different world.
Yeah. So there was this sort of, and you're going to find out more later, but there was this family kind of division of some believed that this was a good thing to come, and the judge wasn't so thrilled about what was happening. So.
And then some had a change of heart too.
And some had changes of heart. That's right.
Armando. Yeah.
All right. So let's hear A Man Like Me.
If you wanna be as quick as me, stick with me, do as I do. Every bully that might come your way, you make 'em pay when you need to. A jab to the jaw, hook to the ribs. You gotta be quick, that's the trick, or else they never quit. If you wanna be as tough as me, I guarantee just follow. The new Cuban man is a man like me, just like me. If you wanna look as smooth as me, cool as me, dress like I dress, yeah, you still can wear a guayabera, but slick your hair back to impress. A Panama hat tilted like that, a bit to the side to provide a little intrigue. If you wanna look as fly as me, I guarantee just follow. The new Cuban man is as smooth as me, as slick as me. The new Cuban man is a man like me, just like me. Tell us more, we've been thinking about this, all of this, all of this. Tell us more, cause we wanna be grown-ups, just like this, dressed like this. If you wanna learn to talk like me, walk like me, strut like I strut, first you gotta put your shoulders back, and ask what? A 1 and a 2 and 1, 2, 3. A 1 and a 2 and 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's more like a dance to enhance your notoriety. If you wanna be a modern guy, reach for the sky and follow the new Cuban man. Could be both of you, I promise you. The new Cuban man will be glorious, victorious, just like us. The new Cuban man is a man like me. Just look at me. Honestly, can't you see? Just like me.
Right. So now that we've heard a couple of the songs, Carlos, what was it like for you hearing these songs for the very first time, being your story being transformed into song?
Well, it was an out-of-body experience, right? Especially because when I wrote this book, I tried to hide my identity. The original manuscript was sold as a novel, and I wanted to sell it under a pen name. And my character's name in the quote-unquote novel was Jesus Rubio Chucho. Chucho Rubio. And the original title for the book, which the publisher would not accept, was Kiss the Lizard Jesus. Jesus. So I didn't write this book to make myself famous, right? I wrote it because of Elian Gonzalez, to educate the wider public about what really happened in Cuba, especially the breakup of families. So now it's about me. Set the music. It's incredible. I mean, out-of-body experience doesn't even come close to describing what it's like, because it's something that, I never expected, and originally was not part of the plan. When Simon & Schuster told me, we can't publish this as a novel, because they discovered my trick, right? Because they would always, my editor kept asking me, did things like this really happen in Cuba? I would say, yeah, of course. Anything like this ever happened to you? And my answer was always yes. So I guess I was stupid. I blew my cover. And they said, we have to publish this as nonfiction. Oh, I was mortified. I was mortified. So I'm a shy person, really, inside. Most professors are. So to see all this going on, you know, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But here I am.
And now, having heard a variety of these songs, which has impacted you the most?
Well, the courtroom scene, for sure. As I've already told you, it was a pivotal experience in my childhood, discovering that my father was important and a serious man, and that there were dangerous men behind bars that he kept from contacting the public. It was quite a revelation, so that rings very true to me. And also the fact that, you know, as I said before, he's judging people, but his previous life, he was judged. And I mean, to give you a taste of my father's real belief in being Louis XVI, he would ask people, including his own children, hey, do you know what's the weirdest thing about being guillotined? No, please tell me. He said, the basket moves towards your face instead of the other way around. So, or as he said to me when he was teaching me to play pool at one of the recently confiscated private beach clubs in Havana. We were sampling them all. He's setting up the balls with the little triangle thing. He says, you know, I haven't played this game in several lifetimes. So, the courtroom scene just...
Awesome. We're going to hear one more song. This one is called This Time Around Benjamin, do you want to?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is a song after Castro has come to power and the judge has lost his judgeship, and he's kind of reeling and losing his mind a little bit as his world is crumbling, and his wife wants to take the kids out of the country, and he refuses. He wants to stay, and so this song is kind of him reliving moments from his past lives as kind of the world around him is falling apart, and he had really believed that this was the life that was going to have a happy ending. And so the song itself is cheerful sounding, but it's in contrast to everything around him falling apart.
Yeah, and it pays credence to what Carlos was just saying, like, and so it was sort of taking from the book and going through all these. There was never a happy ending, right? But it's odd because also there's a great whimsy in the song at the same time where he's kind of in his space in his element, and yet there's this great tragedy on the footstep, right? Of his life.
And I realized, I was looking through some notes before this, and the inspiration for this song was this song "Me Voy Pa'l Pueblo" by Mercedes Valdez that you actually sent as a reference point. So that turned into this song.
Me voy pa'l pueblo.
All right, so this one is This Time Around.
In another life, I was King Louis, with a golden crown upon my head. Then sliced like an onion, off it went tumbling. Now once again my life is crumbling, but at least for now I'm not quite dead yet. This time around let beauty surround me, a beautiful death to have and to hold. I may die young or die old, content or bereft, but beauty is all, beauty is all, beauty is all I have left. All of these lives, so grand, so gory, stories that let me revel in glory. But this time the life that I chose was supposed to be safer, under control. I wanted order, they took it away. Should I leave Cuba or should I stay and let this old soul of mine enjoy the sublime? Yes, this time around let beauty surround me, a beautiful death when my story's told. I may die young or die old, content or bereft, but beauty is all, beauty is all, beauty is all I have left.
So, Richard, you had talked about another aha moment while you were writing the show. So, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. Which is the first aha moment?
You talked. The first aha moment was during the don't go, don't let go.
The website?
Don't let go.
Oh, okay. But did I tell you about the birds?
No. Tell us about the
I
birds.
told Benjamin about the birds, I think. But so this is a follow-up to that aha moment, and then another one about this song, actually. So again, it was the first song. You're like, oh my God, how did we do this? I have no idea. Like, and so I started playing it in the balcony on the beach, and thousands of, well, whatever, Cupid's exaggerate, thousands and thousands of grackles, you know, at the sunset, they all move, and they are moving in these flocks. And I'm playing this song out on the balcony, and I just lost it. I'm like, you know that feeling when you create something, you're like, who did this? I mean, we did this? Who did this? There was this magic where it becomes something else other than you. The other part was partly this song, another aha moment. And I think it's not as romantic, but the idea is that this is a really, if someone were to ask me to write a poem about Carlos's father, it would be a very different poem, right? And so it was a poem where I'm really sort of writing lyrics, and I thought, gee, I don't know, like, you know, what happens with this? Like, you know, it's, again, the end rhyme, you know? Like, and then this one puts music to it, and I'm like, oh my God. And it's one of my favorite songs because it just, it brings, and I think that happened in some ways to every song, right? Where you see the aha of sometimes when we're just writing words, or sometimes you write the music first, right? And then, or you're just thinking of a musical idea. But for me, it was especially true when, like, the lyrics came first, and then you find the music for it, and you're like, and sometimes I'm hesitant for the lyrics, and then it just comes together, and it feels like this whole other world opens up. That neither one can exist on their own; they have to be together.
What a beautiful thought. If everything was like that. Carlos, so Carlos teaches at Yale. And so your academic colleagues, what do you think that they would say, or how would they react to a Broadway musical being based on your childhood?
Horrified. Absolutely horrified. So unseemly. Historians, for one thing, are not supposed to write about themselves until they get to be about this age I am right now. And they're only supposed to write about their career. They're not supposed to write about their personal lives. It's just totally tacky. Es muy picudo. Malísimo. Espantoso. So, yeah, but I've had the same response to the memoir from many of my colleagues, and especially from those who remained silent, especially one. He was asked by another colleague, have you read Carlos's memoir? The one who asked that question actually liked it and thought it was a great thing. And this other colleague said, yes, I certainly have. It's like no other book I have ever read.
Well, I hope that they all come out and see the Broadway musical.
Yeah, well, I'll bus them in. I'll pay for the bus.
I love that. We're going to move into the process of writing a musical and some of the challenges that we've faced so far. So, Benjamin, this is for you. So what is the process of writing a musical? From someone who writes the book musical, which is different from the resource material, you know, so how did you go about it?
I mean, I think we talked about some of those aspects so far, but the fact that there was source material here we were working from, we worked with a script writer to kind of help us all decide what the structure was going to be, and they kind of take the lead on that, and then together we figure out, okay, well, how do we want to use the songs to move the story forward, and sometimes songs are plot-driven, sometimes they're just character-driven, and figuring out all those things takes a lot of trial and error. I was joking earlier that every musical has a graveyard of songs that you write and you realize, oh, the story that we want to tell is maybe this song doesn't work anymore, and now there's like 10 plus songs that are just no one will ever hear because they don't work anymore, but that's kind of how it goes with every musical. But the fact that you're creating something larger, it makes it worth it in the end. But it can be heartbreaking sometimes.
It has to be, because it's like a baby, you know? And then
I know, it's harsh, but people say you have to kill your babies. I mean, that's what they say about your songs.
Yeah, and it gets back to the collaborative aspect. And I just want to say, as maybe the most novice you, at first with what happened with the play, right? for everyone. Like, I mean, I used to go see plays and musical and think, oh, that just happened. Like, oh, they did it here. You know, this is a labor of love. This is, like, first of all, a beautiful labor of love, but it is an iterative process, and it just keeps on evolving and evolving. That's part of the hard work, but it's also part of the fun and also the bonding and really creating together a vision. But that's part of it. I would say though, do you think really it sort of does begin with the adaptation, right? Like, 'cause
Well, and you have to be
without
creative about what you decide to keep, what you decide to change. You're going to hear about a character later called Miranda that was kind of created for the purpose of the story that we're telling. But also creative choices about, like, we really wanted to focus the story on Carlos and his mother. It's not like he didn't also have just as an important relationship, as complicated as it might be with his father, but the story we decided we were telling was one of a mother and son, and so that's kind of where we focused. I'm wondering if we skip the next song and go to the mother song, just because of time.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go to the mother song. Would you like to give us a little context?
So this is the mother. As you can tell, the father was a larger-than-life character. So his mother, Maria Azucena, was kind of more soft-spoken, and but she was kind of the silent hero of the family, keeping them all together. And this is right after we heard that song with the father, and he's like, "I'm not leaving Cuba." She decides. She has a conversation with this Father Alejandro character who is offering her a way to send the kids to the States, and she is kind of making that decision during this song of just that act of bravery that it requires to kind of break up the family that way. Okay. And musically, because she was a polio survivor, she had a bit of a limp, and I wanted to kind of lean into, she always felt out of place a little bit in the world, and I wanted to, it's a waltz in 3/4 time to kind of lean into this idea that it's always a little bit off balance.
How brilliant to incorporate the character's limp into the song, the measure, the key
time signature.
The time signature. I was like, key signature. All right, so let's listen to Quietly Brave.
When I was 9, the doctor said I'd never walk again. Bones too weak, legs too numb. I could have believed them, but no, even way back then, I knew I would overcome. Others are louder and bolder than I am. Others are faster at running away. But I know I am a miracle, step by step, quietly brave. My husband believes I'm Marie Antoinette, but I'm not his queen, and he's no king. My name's Azucena, a beautiful flower. Now's my time for blossoming. I am a woman who's tired of silence, more than a wife who's supposed to behave. And I know I am invincible day by day, quietly day by day, quietly brave, quietly brave, quietly, carefully, patient has led me to nothing, got me nowhere. Maybe my bravery needs to step into the fray. I'm done letting my husband decide. I'll fight for my boys and I won't be denied. too long sitting silently, idly by, far too long getting less than I gave. I have a voice, I'll be quiet no more. For too long I have been too quietly brave.
Powerful song for a female soloist. And Carlos, within this process, you've been reviewing some of the material as it comes out. Are there any creative liberties that have been taken with your story?
Yes, but that's always necessary. I took creative liberties by turning my parents into King Louis and Marie Antoinette, so I understand. Miranda does not exist in my memoir. And what you heard at the opening about me meeting my mother at the airport, beautiful, beautiful creative license. I went to meet her at Union Station in Chicago by train, and she was there. And her hair had turned from brown to gray. 3 years.
Wow. Well, a couple of final questions to finish off the night, then we're going to open up questions from the audience. Let's start with Maria Elena. So, Maria Elena, what has been the toughest challenge for you during this process?
So scheduling has been a big problem. Everybody here has a number of projects at the same time, you know. They're in different phases of their projects. And a lot of times we try to get everyone together for a reading, something like that, and it's just either someone's got another show opening or someone has a film that they're working on. So that kind of has delayed the process. I've been at this now for 9 years. The other reason also that has delayed it is because we've had to change the members and the team for one reason or another. You know, it just didn't work, the chemistry, or it wasn't working with their work, or they had to leave for personal reasons. So we basically, that's taken up a lot of time, because when you have to replace someone, you need to spend time researching, getting then the contracts done, and back and forth, and it lasts forever. So it's very different to advertising. Advertising is yesterday. So, so this has been a lesson for me in patience. But that's been one of the challenges. And the one that's been most difficult is the raising money. And the reason for that is because when you have a product and it hasn't been manufactured, it's hard to sell it. It's hard to pitch it. But now that we have these songs and we know where we're going, we know what's next, it makes it much more tangible, so people are more willing to invest in the show. And it just, I mean, you could feel all of the emotion in these songs, and I hope that this next phase will produce a lot more people interested in investing in the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to listen to, yes, yes. Sorry. It's okay. We've got
It's the money thing.
2 more excerpts to listen to. So, Benjamin, I'm going to ask you again to give us a little context here. This is called Waiting for Snow in Havana Cabaret and Waiting for Snow in Havana Airport.
So we knew we had to have a song called Waiting for Snow in Havana. It's too good of a title, and it's very evocative. And as we were trying to figure out, okay, what song makes sense? So the first version you're going to hear is this character that we created for this story called Miranda. She's the daughter of a farmer, and she's moved to Havana to be a cabaret singer. But she's also kind of a revolutionary. She's very inspired by what's possible for the future of Cuba. So she's using that phrase in a way to represent hope and faith in a better future. And then later it'll come back as the show's finale and it'll mean something different. But we can hear the first version, which is, so it's in one of those cabarets that was for the tourists, and Armando is dating Miranda, and he brings the two kids along because he's supposed to be babysitting them, and they've been told in school that mambo music will send them to hell, and so this song is mambo influenced, and it's kind of their first exposure to this other world that they haven't been allowed to see.
Let's listen to Waiting for Snow in Havana, Cabaret.
Waiting for the snow in Havana. You ready, boys?
For what? A mambo? Oh no.
Do you like it?
We're going to hell. Quick, cover your ears. She's beautiful.
Waiting for the snow in Havana.
Waiting for snow.
Waiting for the snow in Havana. Born a poor girl, it wasn't fun. Life was harsh as the burning sun. Stuck with hunger, you can't outrun.
Waiting for snow in Havana.
So I left the farm, leaving everything. Taught myself how to dance and sing. Soñando, what could my future bring?
Waiting for snow in Havana, Havana.
Just because I grew up poor doesn't stop me wanting more.
Waiting for the snow in Havana. Waiting for the snow in Havana. Waiting for the snow in Havana. Waiting for snow, waiting for the snow in Havana. Waiting for snow, waiting for the snow in Havana. Waiting for snow, waiting for the snow in Havana, 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 Havana.
If we can't protest, we aren't free, we're desperate.
And then what we're going to hear is a part of the finale when he's at the airport and his mom doesn't get off the plane, and it starts with him singing about these 14,000 kids, and really he's in that headspace of thinking about the whole journey he's been on after we've seen it all play out on stage.
So it's like, I think this was really brilliant, like using the same lyrics, but different songs, actually, but two takes on the same, two different points of view, which is why Miranda exists.
Yes, and so this is Waiting for Snow, Airport.
14,000 of us disappeared, leaving our families behind us. 14,000 children flew away, believing that someday home would find us. Every night we'd close our eyes, dreaming of Havana skies. Waiting for the snow in Havana. Waiting for the snow in Havana. 14,000 searching for a home, surviving on a memory and the promise of tomorrow. 14,000 orphans grew up fast, believing we could find a way to make it through our sorrow. Some let go when hope was gone, some let go when hope was gone, but most of us kept holding on. Waiting for the snow, waiting for the snow in Havana, waiting for the snow
Carlos, we've spoken about your parents extensively throughout here. What do you think your mother would say if she were able to?
Oh, it's hard to say, but she would be more than thrilled. She never got to read the memoir because it was written in English, and she never learned English. Although a high school companion of mine, Graciela, would come to my mom's apartment and read her chapter by chapter in Spanish, translating on the spot, right? She never got to finish. So that's why I say it's hard to tell. Occasionally she would correct me and say, you know, you're saying this happened this way. That's not how it happened at all. For instance, there's a scene where we're fleeing a tiroteo, the shooting in the streets of Havana, and we have to dash into some stranger's house. And I say in the book that we were all terrified. And she said to me, you didn't mention the dog. El perro. Sí, porky. I don't remember the dog. She says, yeah, the dog was terrified. And I was more worried about him than about you boys. So, just goes to show you. I don't know, but I think she would be thrilled.
Absolutely. And Maria Elena, you put so much work into this already, so many years. What is next in the developmental phase of this show?
So we're going to be heading into doing a few readings because Sarah's working on a new draft, and this draft is bringing together the two books. So we kind of shook it up and put it all in there, like I explained, like you heard in the synopsis. And we're going to have some readings, table readings, but the most important next step is having what's called a 29-hour reading. We're not reading for 29 hours, it's just a term. But, and this is the time when we invite artistic directors from different regional theaters who come to hear the show. We have actors singing the show from beginning to end with a small band in a studio. It's not with wardrobe, costumes, props. It's just them in front of a microphone with a band singing the entire show from beginning to end. And the goal here is to get one of these regional theaters, or a few of them, to want to take our show to their theater in their next season. So in order to get there, we need to raise money. And I also want to bring in one or two co-lead producers, because usually for a big show like this, which is about a $15 million budget, it takes a few people and 2 to 3 co-lead producers to bring in money, to manage the whole show and take it all the way up to Broadway. And then there'll be other co-producers and all of that. So that's pretty much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank all of our amazing team up here. So let's give them a round of applause. And we are going to open the floor up. If you have any questions, so thank you so much. So we're going to be opening up the floor. So if you have any questions, please, you can raise your hand. We'll come over to you with a microphone, and you can ask any of our panelists any questions. There we go.
It'll be a 2-act musical, which is about 2 hours, 10 minutes maybe, with an intermission. And there's probably like 14 principals. And then there's all the ensemble people. And some of those ensemble people will play several roles smaller roles, but there's probably like 14 principals. It's a big
Yeah,
cast.
I think it's something we're still figuring out
Yeah.
because, for example, we'd want to have children, but children are tricky to have, and so it's a question of how many children
Yes.
make sense, and then you also need understudies and people who can know the parts of who are also in the cast. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a puzzle.
It's another challenge. Yeah.
Another question?
Hi, Carlos. I'm one of your high school friends.
Oh my gosh, how special.
The only thing I remember about your high school is that right after class you left school because you went to work. You left real quick. And I have fond memories of your mom and of course Tony.
Yes.
And I'm happy to see that you're still the same Cuban refugee from St. High School in Chicago.
Yes. That's good. That's it.
Hi, I wanted to ask you about fundraising, because that's like the elephant in the room for a project of this magnitude. And I was wondering if there are some very prominent Pedro Pan folks that have made it in financially in the world that we're tapping on or that we can grapevine on, because it really takes a village for a project like this, and $15 million is a lot. So is there some people that you're targeting, or what's your take on that?
It's really surprising because sometimes the people you think might be the ones that you should target are not, and then there are other people you did not expect surprise you. But I am targeting everybody I can. But yes, I mean, that is the plan, hoping that after this project, this presentation, that we'll follow up with some folks and continue this, and maybe people who know people. People who know people.
Is there like a website or something?
Oh, we don't have a website yet. Once the show is much more formed, we'll have something. But you're talking because of donations or just a website?
A website?
Oh. Yeah. No, not yet. My card will be available if you want it.
I want to thank all of you. We're friends of Maria Elena from Arlen Beach. Professor, I want to tell you, when I came from Cuba, I became Joe Sardinia instead of Jose Angel Sardinia. I didn't call myself Jose until high school, until I realized who I really am. And I want to thank you for the story. This is our story very much. More so, Maria Elena. We lived through your process. I remember you coming to some of the people that are Pedro Pans in our building, and you were interviewing them on the beach, taking photos and images, and it was amazing. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
And we wish you heartfelt the best.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you for being here tonight.
I want to thank you, Carlos, for creating such a literary tribute to our Cuban story. I read your book when it was first published, and it stays with me in my heart. One of the incredible moments that I recall from the book, very impressive, very visual, is how you mentioned how, as a child, a student in class, so much for all of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, thank you all for being here. It's been amazing. I know Maria Elena from, elementary school, and yes, she was singing and dancing. She was, the fact that years later we our paths are crossed again is so very apropos. But I have a comment and a question. One of them is that I see the potential of the story and this musical. It's a youth story. It's children, it's teenagers, it's a generation that's lost and found in a way. And I find a very big potential to unite the generations, to teach the young Cubans and even young immigrants. This is a question about legacy. This is a question about generations and connections. And I think it's a very important story to tell. A lot of people don't know the Pedro Pan story, especially the young ones. So I hope that this gets to Broadway and that connects the generations in this amazing immigration story, but a profoundly Cuban story. And then the second thing is a question for you, Carlos, being a writer, and I tempted to, tinkle with the lyrics, to say things, to change things. And being a writer myself, that's a question.
Well, I'll tell you this. Maria Elena has kept me close to the production from the beginning through every step, and that is very unusual. Here's what my literary agent told me about selling the rights to your work. Most contracts, not the average contract, most contracts, whoever buys your title can do whatever they want with your character. They could turn you into a transgender hippo. And you can't stop them, usually. But here I've been part of the process all along. Yeah, and I've given my opinion on many things. I don't hold back. So that's one reason I sent that song. Another Cuban music. I want this to have a real Cuban feel. Real Cuban feel. So Maria Elena and the team members, they've let me in. I am not being turned into a transgender hippo. So, thank you, Maria Elena.
I'm curious, are you working with a script already, or you are creating the script and the songs as you're going, or just one of this?
There was a script. We are now changing it. We're revising it. And this is a constant process. It's always evolving. And now that we have a new member in the team, which is Sarah, we've got a great, great story. It's very dynamic. It's everything. It takes you everywhere and all your emotions. It's just beautiful.
But in terms of process, when I came on board, there was already a script that had attempted to adapt it. And then as the songs started getting written, we realized, this should change to this. And we kept changing it as we went.
And I should say we've written
17
songs out of 19. That's the total, right? I think.
No, there'll be more.
But like Benjamin
you
was
don't know
saying,
it yet, but there'll be more.
Some of them go to the graveyard. Some of them just get tweaked and adapted as, again, it's so collaborative as a scene changes or as a new script writer will add another idea. And so, but yeah, it's all together happening at the same time.
Yes, we have a, what do you call it, a template of some sort, yes, that's already an outline, yeah.
What do you want?
Not yet, no. We have people in mind that, oh yes, Raul, we know Raul, yes.
But if you know him, tell him he should do it. He's very picky with. I think he's also working on his own story, his own Cuban story, and so he wasn't sure if he wanted to do another one. But
Yeah.
I would love to work with Raul. So, well, it was just for a reading, so it's hard to know whether he would say yes to a production.
Raul was one of our first people when we were doing our reading. At that time, the character of Carlos, the adult Carlos, was an older person. Now he's a little younger. He's more of a 19, 20s. So Raul may be something else, but yeah, so it's changed a little bit. Anyway, don't tell his mother. Go ahead.
Hi, I was just wondering, hi, I'm back here, sorry. I was just wondering how soon you think you'll get to the 29-hour reading? I work in theater and I know how far back can be, and I also just want to say, I'm here with Manuela, who is a Pedro Pan kid, telling her story on
Oh,
her life.
yeah.
And she's brought me to many events over the years, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for investing in this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The 29-hour reading, we're planning it for the spring of 2026 in New York. Yeah. 20. Yes. Okay. One more?
Let's do one more question before we conclude here tonight. Oh. Wow, that was a...
Hello, congratulations, Maria Elena, you're great, and I hope you get all your money to put it together and get the best of all.
Thank you.
And Carlos, we were neighbors in Miramar. I'm Alicia Godoy, and I'm Jean's sister, and he was a friend of your brother, of Tony. And he always mentions how you guys had a wonderful childhood.
Yes. And I haven't seen you since 1962.
You remember me?
Yes, of course. You and Chappie
Yes.
came to visit Tony at his foster parents' home, the Rubin family. And I was there to, be part of the reunion. But you guys were so grown up. You were like, in your mid-teens, and I was just 12, and I thought, these guys have turned into pandilleros.
Yes. Oh my God. And let me tell you, for 30 years that I taught high school in Baltimore, Maryland, I taught my story, our Cuban story, all through the years. My students knew every detail of the Cuban Revolution for 30 years.
Good, because
Good job. At Maria Elena's request, we're going to have one last question. Thank you all so much for your questions. Thank you, panel, for your insights, your experience, your passion, the beautiful music. Let's wish them well on their next steps in this amazing journey and hope that Carlos' story gets told to the world. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Let's give it up again for Maria Elena and the team. And thank you to NACAE. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on Broadway.